Greetings everyone, I am Talisman and welcome to my galaxy. A few days ago, Mob Entertainment released The Nightmare Critters, a group of characters who are coming to Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. Now in this video, I broke down the first 4 Nightmare Critters that were revealed, and they are Bubba Chops, Icky Licky, Raby Baby, and Alistair Gator. And in this video, I tend to look at the next 4 that were released and break down the descriptions they have and the character design and find all the connections that are involved within them. So with that said, we're going to start off with the first one, which is Simon Smoke. And Simon Smoke is a red dragon, and his description says,
Simon Smoke knows he's cool and popular, and he makes sure nobody ever forgets it. Whether showing off for friends or just bragging about one of his accomplishments, it's always a popularity contest with him. Almost always, he wins. In truth, he is a colossal jerk, but he does have a knack for getting away with being one.
So there you go. Simon Smoke is a jerk, arrogant, pig-headed in a way. Once again, a bad behaviour, and they're all bad behaviours, something we've seen as a common theme for the Nightmare Critters. And what perfect way to represent an arrogant or pig-headed sort of character than a dragon. Dragons in mythology and in media have been portrayed as great, powerful, awe-inspiring creatures. You know, we look at Game of Thrones and the dragons in that, who are awe-inspiring, giant powerhouses, you know, that are bringing fear and destruction wherever they go. Then you have, in Yu-Gi-Oh!, you have the Blue Eyes White Dragon, an engine of destruction and raw power. And Kaiba, who wields the Blue Eyes White Dragon cards, you know, represents that sort of thing too. He's very much arrogant and pig-headed himself. Then we take it one step further and look at the Hobbit and Smaug. Smaug is, you know, a dragon that breaks into and takes over the Dwarven Kingdom, takes over the treasure, the Arkenstone, the weapons, everything there, the entire city, and rules over it. And they're unapologetic in their actions. They do what they want to do, when they want to do it. And from Simon Smoke's description, he does exactly the same thing. He's unapologetic, he's a jerk. He'll tell you where he stands with you, where you stand with him. And he looks down upon you, almost aristocratic in a way. Like, I'm better than you and I know it. You should know it too. That sort of idea. We can take it one step further and look at the symbol around his neck. It's the dollar symbol. Money. How does that tie in with dragons though? Very simple. Dragons have hoard, treasure that they guard and rule over. And much like Smaug in The Hobbit, where he looks after the treasure, he curls himself up, he sleeps in it. Perfectly encompassing what a dragon does. And when I say aristocratic, where you can look at it in different types of media and also in real life. You see the rich looking down upon the poor, or athletes looking down upon, you know, everyday people, and all these celebrities and all that idolized as, you know, gods in a way. You know, dragons very much the same. Look at me, worship me because I am all powerful, I am bigger, I am stronger. That's the sort of thing I get from Simon Smoke. And perfect. I love the idea, descriptions, everything sort of matches. And then when you look at his scent, which is supposed to be wood smoke, burning wood. Dragons breathe fire, you know, they can breathe ice as well, different things like that. But usually dragons breathe fire, and wood smoke, burning wood, that woody sort of smoky smell perfectly encompasses a dragon as well. I'm going to leave Simon Smoke there because it's pretty much wrapped up there, but the next character is a little bit more in depth, and I love it because there's so many connections you can make. So let's start off with the next character, Poe. And Poe's description says,
Poe hates the sun and thinks it's a cruel trick of nature that the world needs it in the first place. Most comfortable in the dark, they spend their nights hanging around graveyards, listening to music, and feeling vaguely angry at nothing in particular. They insist it isn't a phase.
So there you have it. Poe is definitely a raven. And I believe that Poe is designed and based off Edgar Allan Poe, who was a writer in the 1800s who wrote a very famous poem called The Raven. And in The Raven, a man is grieving over the loss of his lover, and he is visited by a raven who torments him and says nevermore all the time. And this sort of drives him further into grief and despair. So that I find very interesting in itself, and I'm just going to put a pin in that and put it to the side for a moment, because I'm going to come back to that, because there's a lot more to talk about. But I want to then look at the description a little bit more for Poe. The description for Poe clearly says that Poe is nocturnal. Poe doesn't like the sun, so yep, that reinforces the nocturnal part. Poe likes graveyards, listens to music. That's almost very emo-like. But that can't be it. That can't be all of it, and it's not. Because I think there's something missing here. And that's the next line of text that says, Poe is angry at the world, but can't explain why. To me, that is screaming angry teenager. The whole hormonal and pubic teenager who is just angry for no reason, can't express their emotions. It's almost giving me anxiety and depression vibes with Poe, in a way. And I kind of thought about it a bit more, and when we look at the symbolism of a raven, Jarvis might be able to help. Jarvis.
Yes, sir.
Could you please tell us what a raven represents in the symbolic sense?
Of course, sir. The raven represents many different things, such as loss, an ill omen, prophecy, insight, wisdom, a connection with spirits, death, lost souls, and can also represent solitude and depression.
Thank you, Jarvis. So, there you go. Ravens represent loss, omens, lost souls, and can also symbolize depression? I'm starting to wonder if he's not just a moody teen, he is a depressed teen. And that could also come about with the whole doesn't like the sun, stays out at night, because he's a night owl in a way. He's nocturnal, which we look at a bit further. A lot of people sleep through the night. They are active through the day, sleep at night. By staying awake at night and being awake at night, you're isolating yourself a little bit more. And then being in a graveyard, a place that no one really goes to at night, or very few go to at night, and listening to music and finding solace and comfort in that, now, the way I look at it, it's more depression-like. And depression can come out in a lot of different ways for people, and anger can be one of them. So, I think we've hit the nail on the head, as Poe is an angry, depressed teenager. We can even look at this a bit further. Look at the pendant around Poe's neck. And it's a storm cloud with the lightning bolt. Storms can represent, the uncertainty. It can represent a foreshadowing, a bad omen. Once again, what a raven represents. It could also represent sadness and depression. It can create atmosphere. We're getting right into it, and then we take it back to what I said about the book, The Raven, or the story of the Raven, and look at what the whole thing was encompassing, what it was talking about. A man who is grieving the loss of his lover and is visited by a crow who torments him and drives him into anxiety, grief, and depression. That word again keeps coming up, depression. The book is describing depression, or the story, I say, is describing depression. We've got the symbol of the raven, which can represent depression. And then we've also got the storm cloud, which can represent depression. And although depression isn't a bad a personality or a bad thing to have, because we all get anxious and have depression at times. It's just different levels of it. That's not the problem. The problem is how you deal with it. And in Poe's case, isolating himself, a loner, almost like an emo sort of kid or a gothic kid who just can't work out where he fits. It just seems too perfect. Like it's all encompassing, represents everything. And I love that about this character. Poe is, I think, depression, but not in a good way. He's not handling it. Poe is taking the worst side of it. He's not dealing with it, not expressing the way that they want to. And the symbolism is right there for the picking. It's great. I love it. And the whole connection to Edgar Allan Poe, the Raven, and the Storm, everything, it's just works so well. I love it. Next nightmare critter, though, because we can't stay on Poe forever. We've got to get to the next one.
But wait, there's more!
While working on this video, I forgot to mention some things about Poe, and I want to address them now because they're very important and they help cement what I'm saying about the whole depression with Poe. So very quickly, we've got the whole personality of Poe saying that, they think it's a cruel trick of nature the sun exists. And the sun can represent a lot of things such as positivity, a new hope, a new chance, new beginnings, a new chapter. It can also represent, a positive vibe or hope with things. So therefore, the opposite to that is the moon. And the moon can represent changing of the seasons. It can represent mystery. It can represent sleep. It can represent nightmares and dreams. It can also represent instincts and our deepest feelings. So depression can come into that if we're expressing ourselves, and the moon represents that. If you're feeling depressed, you'll feel more of that. That's not to say the moon has any effect on our behavior. There's no evidence to suggest that, but there's that association nonetheless. And Poe being against the sun, so against positivity, reinforces the negatives. And then we look at, Poe says they like to spend their time in the graveyard listening to music. And what do we know about that? Well, the graveyard, especially at night, is quiet, nobody around. And a quiet environment has been known to help with mental health issues. It calms the nervous system. It can lower blood pressure and anxiety. It can cause a person to refocus or to think about things more clearly. There's a lot of benefits to just having a quiet environment. And Poe going to a graveyard at night and listening to music, regardless of what music that may be, that could also be a way of calming and soothing the anxiety and depression that Poe's feeling. So I thought that's really interesting in that respect. We can even go a little further back to Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven, and how in the book the Raven keeps saying, nevermore. Nevermore is a finality, a never again, never will you have again, never will you experience, never will you feel. That is encouraging despair. That is encouraging negative feelings. If you've got no hope, then of course you're going to feel sad and upset and depression. And I think that's reflective with Poe's attitude at the moment. And Poe's description says they believe it's not a phase. If it's not a phase, then they are not seeing it for what it truly is. They think it's their behavior. It's not. It is the disorder they're suffering from, the mental health disorder. So I wanted to say all that. And then Jarvis made a really good point about the scent of Poe, which is cinnamon. Now, Jarvis, would you be able to tell us exactly what cinnamon is, please? And especially what the scent is?
Cinnamon is a spice made from the inner bark of the cinnamon tree. The scent of cinnamon is described as warm, spicy, and sweet. It can give a sense of warmth and comfort, and can represent the changing of the seasons. Research has also found that eating cinnamon products can help with memory, learning, and reduces symptoms of anxiety and depression.
Thanks for that, Jarvis. So there you go. That's a very interesting connection that I didn't make before. Having cinnamon as a spice that gives off a warm and comforting sensation, but also having effects on depression and anxiety. I have to thank Jarvis for looking into that, because I would have never thought of that. And having a character like Poe that's going through this and having that scent, it's just perfect. It fits in so well. And I'm sure there's a lot of other connections that I could explore and go into, but for right this moment, I just want to leave Poe there, because otherwise we're going to drag it out way too long, and I've got 2 other characters to get through yet, as you're probably well aware. So as much as I like Poe, we'll move on. The next character we're going to look at is Tui, the rat. And Tui's description says,
Tui, it's pronounced Tui, is a self-proclaimed trash rodent. When he's not busy eating and collecting garbage, he's a lively conversationist. He talks a lot, which is made all the more surprising by him having shockingly little to say. If you ever need someone to provide insightful commentary, or some random piece of junk, Tui is your guy.
So that's interesting in itself. Tui is clearly based off the character Remy from Ratatouille, the Disney movie. And Remy in the movie is very helpful. He wants to be a chef. He's trying to connect and be friends with humans. But Tui in this respect is obviously the exact opposite in a lot of ways, where you look at his description. He's a trash talker, someone who has so much to say but no substance in what they're saying, belittling everyone around them, giving insightful commentary with no real value. And I thought that was very clever. The next thing that I found in the description that I haven't heard anyone else mention is it says that when he's not eating, he's collecting junk. Why would he collect junk? Could he be a hoarder? Because the whole saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Well, if he's got junk and he's hoarding it, it would make sense with that description. So trash talking hoarder, that works out really well. And then we could take it a little bit further. We look at his pendant, the fish skeleton. What do we know about fish skeletons? Well, they can represent trash, the discarded, the forgotten, the unwanted, the end of things, And there's a little bit more to that. The fish skeleton can also represent perpetuity, an everlasting, a preserved state, in other words. And we could see this with fossils we see today. They're perfectly preserved until we dig them up and we put them in our museums. Tui is very much the same. He's preserving things and hoarding them away. He keeps them. And much like his words, he probably has so much in his head that's worth value of saying, but he's not saying it. He's keeping it back. He's just letting out the remains that he doesn't want anymore. Very good connections there. And once again, I haven't heard anyone say this or even mention it. They've always focused on the fact that he's a trash talker. Okay, but I think there's more to it. And the whole fish skeleton, that was what threw me off until I really looked into the symbolism of it, and that's where I came up with that connection. He's keeping what's value and throwing out the rest that he doesn't want or doesn't have any meaning to him. And that's coming out in the trash talking. So that is really clever. But the scent was what got me, and I don't know what it is. Petrichor. Jarvis, what is petrichor, please?
Searching. Petrichor is described as a deep earthy scent that is produced when rain falls on dry dirt.
Okay. So, in other words, petrichor could be seen as, he's a rat, he's digging through the ground and finding things, that earthy sort of smell. Yeah, we could see that connection. It's a very loose connection. I'm sure there's more to it if I actually dig a little bit deeper. But for now, I think that's Tui pretty much summed up. He's a trash-talking hoarder, and there's really not much more we can say about that until more information ever comes available, or we look into it a bit further. But I like Tui. There's a little bit more in depth of what I thought he was going to be. On the surface, I thought he was going to be very basic, but yeah, when you look, you can be surprised. So with that said, I want to move on to the final nightmare critter now, which is Maggie Mako, who is a Mako shark. Maggie Mako's description says,
Maggie is always thinking about her belly. She's happiest with food in her mouth, and believe us, she's not picky. She loves sweets, but veggies, yuck. Don't be surprised if she takes your healthy eating habits advice with a dabble of sugar, some chocolate syrup, whipped cream, and a big cherry on top, all the while laughing at you profusely.
So, interesting. A Mako shark, and she has a bit of a sweet tooth. Someone who really likes chocolate and syrups and sugary sweets, which goes against healthy eating. It's unhealthy eating, so therefore that's a bad behavior. That's all good. And the fact that she says right at the very end of the description there that she laughs profusely. Profusely can indicate a large amount or too much of something. So therefore, she can be seen as gluttonous. I think it's that implying that she's gluttonous. It's not just sugary sweets. She eats in large, copious amounts. So very interesting in that respect. And I started to think, why a Mako shark? Now, Jarvis filled in the blanks with that. Jarvis, can you please tell me everything you can about Mako sharks, but in a brief, summary?
The Mako shark, otherwise known as the blue pointer, is the world's fastest shark. It is able to reach speeds of 74 kilometers per hour, or 46 miles per hour. It is found in tropical waters and is known for its aggressive behavior. It has very few natural predators and will eat fish, jellyfish, turtles, squids, other sharks, and even humans. It has also been known to eat dead organic material that it may find.
Very interesting. A fast shark. The world's fastest shark, in fact. So therefore, if we look at it a bit further, what is she eating? Sugary treats. Could they be implying sugar rush? This whole burst of energy from the sugar, and she's off and going with a gluttonous appetite to boot. Makes sense. And the fact that, as Jarvis said, they can eat dead organic material. Well, that's sort of like, the ends of something. What do we eat at the end of a meal? Usually it's dessert. So that connection could be made. It's a bit loose, but that could be made. The one thing I want to move on to with that, though, is the shark tooth. Why a shark tooth out of all the things? And I started to think, well, maybe it's promoting, the whole looking after your teeth sort of aspect of it, that symbol. But there's more to it, obviously. There'd have to be more to it. So, Jarvis, can you please tell me, what does a shark tooth represent?
Many regard shark teeth as a symbol of focus, discipline, courage, and power. In Native American tribes, shark teeth are seen as protective talismans, providing courage and help ward off negative energies. Hawaiian and Polynesian traditions, however, associate sharks with gods and deities, considering them symbols of strength and guardianship.
Once again, very interesting. So it can represent power, it can represent focus, it can represent warding off negative energies. But I don't see really a big connection with it other than looking after your teeth and, teeth decay, that sort of thing. Sharks do lose their teeth and grow them back, so maybe that could have something to do with it. But
Excuse me, sir, but I have some information for you.
yeah, go ahead, Jarvis.
Here is something you might find very interesting, sir. The word mako comes from the Maori language and can mean the shark or shark tooth.
That's interesting. Mako sharks mean shark tooth. She has a shark's tooth around her neck, reinforcing the Mako, part. Yes. Maybe I might have to do a deeper dive with Maggie Mako in the future. But for now, that's really all I can see. A gluttonous shark who likes sweets. The opposite of Piggy Piggy, who is all about healthy eating, and Maggie Mako is all about bad eating, the gluttonous side of things. I think that's very interesting. And like I was saying in the end of my last video, they're equal opposites of each other. The nightmare critters and the smiling critters are both equal opposites, and they have counterparts to each other. There may not be a direct connection straight away, but there is. Like with Dog Day being a natural leader. And then we've got Simon Smoke, who seems to be the leader himself because he's always at the forefront. He's showing off how good he is. He's winning popularity contests. He's this, he's that. They're both similar, but they're opposite sides of the same coin, if that makes sense. Then, so that's really interesting. The other one that we made connections with about in our last video was between Hoppy Hopscotch and Icky Licky. Hoppy Hopscotch being about, being energetic and outdoors and sportsmanship and giving it all your best. Icky Licky's about making excuses, having the raw talent and able to do things, but not willing to back it up. Just letting things go and making excuses for everything. Poor sportsmanship versus good sportsmanship, that sort of thing. There's always connections to be drawn, and I may have to do another video doing more about these connections and how they all fit in with each other. I found these videos really insightful, and I know that people want to just get the information out and move on to the next thing, but there's so many good little pieces and Easter eggs and connections that can be made with these characters and their designs and their backstories and all this sort of thing that really make a lot of sense to me, and I love exploring that. So I'm definitely going to have to look into it a little bit more and seeing what else I can come up with. But in the meantime, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you like about this, what your thoughts are. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there something else you thought about that I may not have mentioned? Or do you think I'm on the wrong path with things? Let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for tuning in to Talisman Galaxy, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.